Coming to get you, Barbara.
Here's Johnny.
Like scary.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Scared Speechless, the podcast where 3 silver shamrocks with 5 more days till Halloween, 5 more days till Halloween, try and find the words to describe our favorite and least favorite horror films. I'm your host, Jake, along with my co-host, Aaron.
That was good. Silver Shamrock.
Damn right, Silver Shamrocks, which I'm going to talk a lot about at some point. But yeah, guys, so this is a little bit of a special episode because not only are we talking about Halloween 3, which is already awesome, but my good friend Josh is here with us today, joining us on this podcast to talk about Halloween 3. Josh, if you'd like to introduce yourself.
Hello, everyone. Good to be here. Can't wait to talk about the Silver Shamrock.
Fucking Silver Shamrock, goddamn. But yeah, guys.
Silver Shamrock.
Josh is a good friend of mine. We've been friends for several years now. We actually met working at a movie theater a couple years back, which, other than the free movies, was not the best job. Not the best job, especially all those kids movies. But yeah. So I want to preface this by saying that one of the reasons that I wanted Josh on this specific episode, not just because he's a good friend and I think he'll have good insight and a lot to add to the conversation, but this is a movie that I actually myself, when I first watched it as a young lad, when I was first getting into the Halloween movies, that I absolutely hated. Was not a fan of, thought it was super stupid. Apparently, I didn't know how to use the internet back then because I didn't look up beforehand and went like an hour and a half, without realizing that Michael Myers is just not going to show up in this movie. But my good friend Josh here, during one of our many Regal shifts together, prompted me to watch it under a fresh set of eyes without the preconceived notion of there, being supposedly supposed to have a Michael Myers in it. So anyway, yeah, that's why I thought having Josh on this episode would be fun, is he's the one who kind of got me to look at this movie in a different light. And I also know that Aaron has never seen it, so it'd be a lot of fun. But yeah, so I don't know where to really start. This is our first guest star, so this may be a little messy, guys. But I guess, Josh, I'd love to first off hear your kind of history with this movie and I guess backstory with it, since you are the one who got me to enjoy it.
So I'm trying to remember when I first watched this movie. Do you remember if you were like a kid or were you in high school when you first watched Halloween 3?
I was probably either in middle school or early high school, so like freshman, sophomore year, one of those.
Yeah, so my first time watching this was in high school, and I will say, I did tell Jake to give this movie an actual chance rather than be a little bitter about the lack of Michael Myers. But when I first watched it, I still wasn't as big of a fan of it as I am now.
Interesting.
I still liked it a lot. It actually was, I used to be on this website, this like little horror community where people just like talk about horror movies. And this one guy on there was a huge fan of Halloween 3. And he's actually the one that made me like look more into it. It was before I actually even saw the movie, and I only knew a little bit about it, that it was the one without Michael Myers. That's all I knew about it.
Yeah.
So when I got that like opinion, when I saw his, I was like, oh, you know what? Let me like actually watch this. So I actually got to watch it when I knew about kind of like the change in opinion of this movie. So I actually kind of wish I watched it with like the fury that Jake might have seen at first.
Yeah.
I
was pissed.
But yeah, so when I first watched it, I just remember thinking it was like just very interesting of like change. I loved my progression of like loving this movie though. Like for the longest time, I didn't actually realize how great the score was, the soundtrack for this film.
Oh yeah.
Which is crazy because, when you first watch it, it should hook you immediately, but it took me a little bit to realize like how great the music alone was in this movie. that's honestly one of my favorite parts of this. I've told Jake before, it's actually very close in terms of like favorite soundtracks to like Halloween 1. Where I think Halloween 1 I think
Probably
it does
more iconic.
yeah, it's
Definitely
like
more
it's a
iconic.
better score for the movie, but like for listening and like re-listening,
Yeah.
I would put on Halloween 3 probably as a whole score.
I would agree with you on that one. Actually, I love the original Halloween. I've mentioned several times on this podcast that it is my favorite horror movie. But if you go track by track, yeah, I definitely think Halloween 3 has
It's
a
long
better
too.
Yeah.
It's really long. It's like 27 tracks or something like that, or like close to 30. And they're
Yeah.
like all bangers. Like there's like not a dull track on that whole album.
Yeah,
I'll have
it's
to give that another listen then.
yeah.
I feel like I really wasn't in it this one.
I think the reason at first it didn't grab me like it does now is because that's one of the components I was like waiting to hear like a version of the Halloween score. Like just like how he altered it a little bit in the second one, still great. Did like
Yeah.
more I think it's more like synth heavy even in the second one, right?
Yeah, they get more synth, and they also in the second one they add like gothic orchestral instruments to
Okay.
it to make it feel like grander and a little more twisted.
Right. So I was expecting to just hear another variation of it, so I kind of was disappointed with that. To like not really focus on that this is like an actual great new take on a soundtrack.
Yeah, absolutely. No, and I like what you said about it being like you're like the community that you found it was like some little horror community, because this film is like very definitively a cult classic, like the definition of a movie that was super hated upon release but has kind of over the years has garnered this following of people who just absolutely just love it. So now I'm curious to hear Aaron's thoughts, like what as a person who, because you knew going into this that Michael Myers was not in it and that it was like a standalone film. So I'm curious what like your first reaction to it is, I guess.
Yeah. So I kind of just like thought it was really like it was interesting because I did go into that like knowing that this wasn't like the one with Michael Myers in it, and it seemed like for the most part like the general consensus was this was like a really hated movie, and up until like just now I didn't realize that there were that many people nowadays who are like more like fans of this movie. But I'd have to say I just really enjoyed this movie a lot.
Yeah.
Like
Let's go.
if you go in like that, it makes me wonder like about how so it's so different from the other movies, just like with like out like Michael Myers and everything, and it's like it just seems so much more different. It's like I would have liked it if it was like the story of like The Shape or something like that for like the first one, for like Halloween 1, and then like if they were to do like a different thing and then like Season of the Witch after that, like that would kind of make sense in that sort of way. And like Halloween is like some like scary holiday, and then they have like Twilight Zone like fashion
Where like each thing is different,
movies.
like its own
Yeah.
thing. Yeah.
but like revolves around Halloween. Like that would have been so interesting, and it makes me think of how like iconic Michael Myers was, that it just like people like wanted like didn't understand what this franchise was without him,
Well,
because I guess he rose to popularity, I suppose.
it's funny that you mentioned that, because I don't know if I mentioned it to both of you, but I know I mentioned it to one of you. But I watched a behind the scenes making of documentary about Halloween 3, and one of the producers and I'm kind of falling in love with these Halloween making of documentaries, because watching the one for Halloween 2 was also a blast, and just like the dumb irrelevant shit that they say in it. But what was funny about this one is the one producer who produced Halloween 3, I forget his name, but basically every time that he was in the documentary, his opinion and what he was saying boiled down to, oh yeah, those fucking idiots. Why the fuck would they remove Michael Myers from Halloween? Dumbasses. Stupidest decision ever. Like, he's like, yeah, I had nothing to do with this movie. They just sent me a fat check.
God.
It was hilarious, but I'm glad to hear that you enjoyed it. And I'm also just now realizing that we didn't give the folks listening any backdrop about this movie, about what it's about, or anything about the plot. So, Aaron, if you want to let the people know what's going on with this movie.
Well, so yeah, that was kind of like I guess ties into what I was like saying, is that like I didn't know anything other than it was the one without Michael Myers in it, so I kind of went in like not knowing anything else about it, and that was kind of like the best mindset to be in for it, I think, because I just really got to enjoy a different story that like I knew nothing about. So it's really interesting. So I'm just going to read this small one right here. Kids all over America want silver shamrock masks for Halloween. Dr. Daniel Chalice. Yep. There you go. Seeks to uncover a plot by silver shamrock owner Connell Cochran. Yeah.
Oh, that's it?
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah. It's a very short synopsis. Was that IMDb or is that
That was IMDb.
Yeah.
I'm looking for...
That's fair because, to be fair, also, guys, full spoilers. We shouldn't have to say it every episode, but yeah, we're going to spoil the shit out of this movie and talk about scenes and deaths. And
when it brings it up, man.
But, yeah, I know. But, like, I don't know. I don't want someone to get pissed at us. I also, before I forget, guys, I do want to shout out our first commenter on our YouTube channel. If you guys don't know, we post on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, as well as YouTube. And I want to give a little bit of a shout out to my man. Let me make sure I get his name right. Arman Rahim. Username Arman Rahim 4535 on YouTube. Our first guy to comment on the YouTube channel said that he liked our stuff and he's gonna check out some of our previous videos and episodes. So shout out Arman, thank you. But yeah, getting more into this movie. Yeah, it's hard to talk about this movie, and the reason I brought up spoilers is it's kind of hard to talk about the plot of this movie without spoiling the shit out of it. But essentially what happens right out the get-go, you have a pretty intense scene, which I thought the first 10-15 minutes of this movie are just fantastic. Like, so much chaotic shit happens, and between Dean Cundy, again, returning as cinematographer for the third and final time in the Halloween franchise, bringing back those signature wide tracking shots, and then also just, like Josh had mentioned, that amazing synth score that, you know, track for track, probably tops Halloween. And if it weren't for a little movie that we recently talked about called It Follows, Halloween 3 might have my favorite soundtrack of any horror film, you know, track by track. But yeah, essentially, movie kicks off. This character is running away from something or someone, gets into this tussle, survives, and ends up going to the hospital where he's holding onto this Halloween mask and screaming that they're coming to kill us. They're going to kill us all. Again, we're not going to go scene by scene and talk about the plot, you know, beat by beat. But essentially what happens is this doctor at that hospital and the daughter of that man who ends up dying a little bit later on go on this investigative journey to try to figure out what's going on with these masks, this factory, this mystery figure, Connell Cochran, played by Dan O'Herlihy. And they basically uncover this witchcraft meets science fiction plot where the head of this mask making facility and this mask making company is planning the ultimate Halloween sacrifice by having all of these kids put these masks on. And then at the climax of the film, basically what's going to happen is this silver shamrock theme, which we've already mentioned once, and I'm sure we'll mention again as the movie does, 12 fucking times. But they play this Silver Shamrock thing, and it's this little jingle, which, fun fact, is actually the London Bridge jingle, which apparently, the London Bridge is falling down, but switched out with Silver Shamrock lyrics. And when the kids put the mask on, the jingle plays. This witchcraft, science fiction-y shit happens. It melts the kids' brains, and then snakes and insects and bugs and roaches and shit start flooding out of their heads.
Oh my god.
Which one specific scene we'll talk about, I'm sure, at some point. But yeah, that's basically the plot. So also, okay, one of the questions that I wanted to ask you guys, how do you feel about the tagline of this movie, "The night no one comes home," as like a little play on the original Halloween, "The night he comes home"?
It's like, it's definitely, it feels like a dig. It's almost like you're just trying to like instigate the fact that you didn't put Michael Myers in.
No. It's not a dig, because this movie sucks off John Carpenter's Halloween like 3 times.
Would you say it's like a twisting the dagger to the audience?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that's like, as if, I mean, I wonder.
Yeah.
I wonder if they knew the backlash was coming, because I was like reading about the marketing of this film, and I know the studio wanted John Carpenter to like change a lot. But he I think it was something with the ending, and he said no, like, this is the end, this is my movie. Like, I think he's already been like pissed off enough at the studio for like making him do like a sequel to the first one.
Well,
and
did you get to our last week's episode where I mentioned how much John Carpenter hates Halloween 2?
Oh yeah, yeah, no, and I remember reading how much he despises that film, and
yeah,
but so I think in retaliation the studio just said, you know, fuck it, we're not like. I think there was very minimal marketing. I think they still I think audiences still knew a little bit, but I can't remember if it said that they even had like a poster with Myers like on it. I don't know if that's accurate, but yeah, I think that also like really affected the reception, because there was just very little marketing, I guess, for this. So no one really knew anything about this, which makes sense why there was like such an uproar. I wish I could have been around like when this came out, just to see like how I would have felt, because I don't know. I mean, maybe I would have thought differently back then, but.
Well, that actually ties into a question I want to pose a little later once we're done discussing this movie, because it's one that I feel like I know everyone's answer to, but I'm still curious just because of how like this movie has developed over time. Aaron, it looked like you had a thought. Were you about to say something?
Well, I just like, so you guys know exactly like why they did it so much more differently than the first two?
Like why Michael's not in it?
Yeah, and like why the story is so different.
Well, okay, so apparently this is from the research that I've done in the documentary. It seemed like John Carpenter never wanted to do a sequel to Michael Myers to begin with. So Halloween 2, he never wanted. Actually, he wanted a Halloween 2 to happen, but he wanted, supposedly, like we've mentioned, for every film in the Halloween franchise to be a standalone anthology film where none of it connected. But obviously, with how massively successful his original Halloween film was, the studio was like, no, you have to bring him back for part 2. And then I think a lot of people signed on to do part 3 only on the sole basis that Michael Myers was not in the film. A lot of people, the director of the film, Tommy Lee Wallace, who was the editor on the first film, I believe, and maybe the second one, but to the point where he was like, yeah, I wasn't interested in making another Michael Myers / The Shape movie. It's been done twice already. I want to do something unique and interesting. And it's fun. It's not fun, but it's interesting to like see now in that documentary all of the interviews from actors and the people behind the scenes, because a lot of them are like really proud of the film and are happy with the product that they made, and it just really like kind of crushed them that it didn't even seem like people weren't a fan of the movie. They were just pissed off that Michael Myers wasn't in it. And I didn't, what I should have done was look up some old trailers to see if at any point they even marketed it that Michael was supposed to be in the movie. But I do have a quick question for you guys. And it's not even, because a lot of people have made the case like, oh, if you completely remove the Halloween title from this movie, then a lot of people will change their minds on it and the reception would have been differently. But I'd like to pose an alternate theory. What if the movie was still called Halloween Season of the Witch, but was not called Halloween 3? If it was just called Halloween Season of the Witch and there was no 3 in the title, do you think people would have been a little more receptive and open to the idea of, oh, this is a Halloween movie, but not a Michael Myers movie?
I think so.
Yeah?
Even if it was like Season of the Witch, man, I would watch that movie.
Yeah.
And just seeing the trailer, or not the trailer, the poster for it, like, I won't lie, that's like one of my favorite posters.
The poster goes hard in this movie. Like,
it's dope.
Like, I know you gave me shit last week for liking the Halloween 2 poster, which I stand by. I still
looks
like that.
Dookie.
I still like that poster.
Looks like it was like they edited with like Microsoft Paint.
But no, Halloween 3, it kicks ass. And so the one thing I mentioned before the podcast that I thought was interesting about this movie that I don't think a lot of people caught was a little tie-in to Halloween Ends, in which the font and color of the font that they use for the Halloween Ends opening title in that movie is the same font and color of font that Halloween Season of the Witch uses. Not only that, but the silver shamrock masks from this movie are in Halloween Ends.
Really?
Yeah.
Aren't they in? So yes, I do remember seeing the font.
Or is it Kills? Are they in Kills?
I think they're also in. They're in Kills, but I think they're in the first one too.
Oh,
Very
20,
briefly.
20. Okay.
When it has that long tracking shot of him walking through the neighborhood.
Yeah.
I think you see kids running with them on. Because then
That would make me like that movie more.
Because then you see in
Would it-
Kills,
would it
you see
though?
those same kids killed. I think
It would. It would.
I don't know if there's anything that can make me like Halloween
I
Ends.
know you're a
anymore.
sourpuss about it. But
I am a sourpuss. Apologies to the listeners if you hear any tapping noises. My dog is walking around my room as we speak. Yeah, so we haven't really talked much about scenes and the plot of this movie, but so this is the one that I'm very excited to talk about because I think we've all at least said that we like this movie. Maybe some of us love it. We'll get into that when we get into the scores. But my biggest fucking gripe with this movie is I cannot stand Tom Atkins' character, Dr. What's his name? Dr. Chalice?
Dr. Chalice.
Dr. Chalice is such a piece of
Thank
shit.
God that you
I think
said
you
that,
mean-
man. Thank God.
I
Because
think
I
you mean
was
Dr.
thinking
Sexy.
it. Oh, is he ever?
It is,
God. With his
that-
Burt Reynolds fucking.
he's like a poor man's Burt Reynolds. Like
Yeah.
that sex scene in the motel is one of the most icky sex scenes I've
It's
ever
so
seen.
icky.
Because he looks like he's old enough to be her father.
Definitely.
He is.
Be-
I think he's almost 50. I think he
Holy
was like I think he was
Yeah.
47 and I
he's
think
like 90 now.
I think Ellie was like 23. So there's like 25-year
Jesus.
gap.
Yeah.
But like the whole
That's
movie, he's
Leo
so
DiCaprio
hungry
moment
for
there.
every female that's next to him.
He
Like,
cannot
oh
be
my
he
God,
cannot be
yeah.
in a room with a woman without slapping her ass or kissing her on the cheek. Like
I was like, damn. This guy kind of sucks. And then he like just asked for her age as soon as they're about to like
no.
get down and dirty.
Not as soon as they're about to, Aaron. They had already had sex once before he asked for her age.
I have
Damn.
that note. I have that note right here. I,
Oh my God.
I wrote like
You're right.
I find it funny he said, "Wait, how old are you?" right after they have sex. Like Yeah, good one, pal.
That's insane.
He's
man.
also like a crippling alcoholic. Like there's two scenes with Tom Atkins in this movie. He's either got a beer or a drink in his hand, or he's trying to have sex with a woman. And those
It's
are
so
the two
damn
scenes.
gross. It's so gross. I can't even defend it. I was gonna like try to like combat like whatever critiques you had, but no, that is one. Even though I do
It
like,
made me feel icky.
Yeah.
I do think Tom Atkins is really good in this movie.
Yes.
Oh,
yes.
for
He
sure.
gives a good performance. Oh my god, the final scene when he's
Yeah.
screaming into the phone, like
Yes,
turn it
man.
off.
Oh,
I think my
dude,
favorite scene with
I felt
him-
that.
I mean the final scene, like the end is. It's a great end. I love
Yeah.
the ending of this movie. He's
Oh, man,
he's
the
really
ending
great.
is
in it.
Quite,
Chef's
quite
kiss.
possibly the best ending in the entire Halloween franchise. Like maybe
The
I
scene-
would. I really liked it
like the
because
post-
it was just so
Yeah.
like, it made me freaked out. The whole, I think, this whole movie kind of just reminded me of like a slightly longer, like Black Mirror or Twilight Zone episode, and
totally
it was
see
just
that, yeah.
so good in that like way of, if you go into that mind way of thinking before watching this movie and like remembering that Michael Myers is not in this movie, like you would enjoy it because it's good. It made me scared. It made me freaked out. It had that like pessimistic kind of ending that like something like Black Mirror or Twilight Zone does.
well,
And it made me feel so unsettled.
according to Tom Atkins, who I'd like to add in the documentary seems like such a lovely, kind gentleman. But he
Sounds like he wasn't.
No, he really does. Like he seems like such a stand-up, just cool dude. Like he seems very likable. Like the type of dude you just want to like grab a beer with and like have at a barbecue, you know? Like very nice
I could
dude.
do that.
But he's in the documentary, he's talking about he's just talking about, you know, different scenes in the movie and his experience with it. But they're like, he's like, oh, you know, when I think about the ending of the movie, I'd like to think that he was able to get through to that last station and all the kids got home safe that night and nobody died. And the guy doing the interview for the documentary goes, huh, you're pretty optimistic, huh? And Tom Atkins just does this like little goofy giggle and he's like, yeah, I'd like to think that I am. But then, and I do think this is funny because Tom Atkins is, it's not, racist isn't the right term, but he makes a comment in the documentary about Irish people that is kind of offensive and it's hilarious. He goes, because he's talking about how Dan O'Herlihy, who plays Connell Cochran in the movie, when that character is about to die because he gets I don't know, he gets like beamed by Stonehenge or something, which I already have my problems with that, but he gets beamed by Stonehenge and but right before he gets beamed, he starts like, he looks up at them and like claps and smiles, like this like giddy little like, I'm still gonna kill all these kids smile. But Tom Atkins was talking about it and he's like, oh, that's just right in line with like your typical Irish person, you know, behind that facade of like, oh, hi, you're my buddy, here, let's have a beer, is like an angry Irish guy who just wants to punch you in the face and stand over you and smile. I was like,
Interesting.
Tom, what the fuck are you talking about? I mean, granted, in the documentary, he looked like 85 years old, so like,
It's disgusting.
I don't know.
It's gross.
Yeah, I hate old people. But so okay, back to his character, not the actor. So not only is he a womanizing asshole who again just gropes and flirts with every single woman who comes into his presence, he has no reason to be in this movie.
Yeah, it's so random. Like I was like thinking about it. I think I kind of just like I was really like on autopilot while watching this movie because I like just needed something to focus on, and so like I was watching it and then I kind of like midway through was thinking, why is this guy doing this? Like he's a doctor.
He's a doctor. Why is he there? Why is he doing any of there's two reasons why. A, he's trying to get some tail, which he succeeds in, and B,
Yeah,
he's trying to
weird.
he's trying to evade his parental duties as much as possible. Like, I'm pretty sure he calls his wife, who fun fact, I didn't notice it until this recent rewatch, is Annie Brackett from Halloween 1, the actress who played one of Laurie's friends. Is
Oh wow.
yeah, I could tell by her voice. Like, I could just picture her saying Annie Wall, or no, not Annie. What's the girl she babysits? Sydney.
I
No,
wouldn't know.
something Wallace. Lindsay.
Lindsay, yep.
Lindsay
go.
Wallace. But this either way, that's neither here nor there. But yeah.
You just noticed that this watch though?
Yes.
Nice. Do you know that Jamie Lee Curtis is in it? Like just her voice?
I did read that in the
Yeah.
the IMDb that Jamie Lee's voice is in this movie.
Really? Where?
It's in the beginning, right? It's on the it's on some broadcast. That's,
Yeah, it's one of the broadcasts that is like telling kids to make sure they're back at home at 9 o'clock for the giveaway or some shit.
Huh.
Another fun
Oh,
voice,
man.
another fun
And
voice
then-
acting tidbit is that the director Tommy Lee Wallace, he does the jingle for the Silver Shamrock jingle. Like, that's his voice. They just he went into the recording booth and they recorded him singing the Shamrock lyrics, and then they sped it up like Alvin and the Chipmunks.
Damn.
Yeah.
That's so silly.
But so not only before this podcast, but last week's episode, I had mentioned that my favorite Michael Myers kill in the franchise is in Halloween 2.
Yes.
But my favorite kill
Can you
in the
remind us of what that was?
Yes. So my favorite kill in Halloween 2 is the scene where Michael first kills the male nurse, but then sneaks up behind the female nurse and drowns her in the scalding hot bathtub that is in the movie.
Yeah.
And every time that he drowns her and pulls her head back up, more and more skin is peeled off her face.
Ugh.
It's just a vile kill. It's very sadistic, and the effects just look
Grotesque.
fantastic. A lot of great kills in that movie, but you know what movie has even better kills is this one. This movie has so many fucking great kills that I don't even, it's weird calling this movie a slasher because it's like witchcrafty and there's elements of sci-fi horror that it feels weird, and it's not, there's no slashing involved, so it's, I don't know if I'd even call it a slasher.
Oh, I wouldn't. Yeah,
But-
I don't categorize this as a
I don't
slasher.
know.
But the kills
I
in
don't
this
know,
movie are off the chains. Like, I don't think there's a single bad kill in this movie. I think they're all fantastic.
Oh, I have one bad
guess
kill.
so.
I think I know which one you're gonna say, and I'll tell you why you're wrong. But
Is it the very first one?
no, I think that kill's fantastic.
Do you mean when he just like rips the cinder block out
the
and it
sl-
rolls 1 mile an hour and he dies
He's like,
instantly?
The slowest moving car of all time.
He dies instantly. He doesn't even like think about it. He's just like, oh yeah.
Right. And he's supposed to be so strong.
Yeah, he dies before it even pins up against the car. As soon as it touches his arm, he's dead. Like,
Hey,
Yeah.
that's how
they're
quick he dies.
They're just robots made by a toy maker. They're fragile, okay? But apparently, like, ungodly strong. All right, fine.
Yeah.
That's fair. That's fair.
That's my
but
only
They
problem
fake,
with
they
like
fake.
the kills in this movie is that one. Definitely not a good one to start off on. I will say that's the first kill of the movie. So it's like it comes. It sets the tone for like a very goofy setup.
yeah.
It doesn't continue that. I don't think it gets better. So.
I thought the kill that you were gonna say was kind of not great was the drill bit kill of the receptionist or nurse, or
Oh yeah, I'm fine with that.
because you don't see it really.
Yeah.
You don't see like the
Scary.
it was scary, and that's why it worked for me. That's why I was gonna be like, no, that scene is effective because they don't show it. But I think we all can guess my favorite kill in the movie. Like, I think it's.
Oh.
Do you want to take a guess, Aaron? Because let's.
It better not be what I think it is,
It's-
and I feel like it is.
All right, what is it?
Is it the one where they kill the fucking kid?
No, but that is a great kill.
That kill freaked me out, man.
Why?
It
Because
freaked
it's
me out.
why? Because it's
Because
a child getting their head melted.
Yeah, it melted into fucking bugs and worms and like the snake man. Oh man, it had me like
well,
shivering.
you forgot that the mom dies of a heart attack or a panic attack or some shit.
Yeah.
She just like collapses. But no, all right. So
Wait, I want to guess. I wanna guess.
All right, Josh. Let's see.
I'm between 3, so I'm just gonna pick one.
I feel like this should be
for it.
obvious, guys. Like this is.
Well, there's a couple I like. There's one I like, but I'm wondering if you like this one because it's Dick Warlock that does it.
I love Dick Warlock.
Is it
but
when he rips the guy's head off?
No, but
Okay,
that
it's
is
not that.
that is an awesome kill when he rips that head off.
Well,
I
then
actually
it's got to be
yeah.
it's got to be the fingers and the eyes and like ripping the skull. No.
no.
Oh man.
No?
Guys,
That was a good one,
it's
though.
it's when the
Freaked
lady gets
me
her
out.
face blown off by the laser.
Oh, it's Marge.
Oh,
Marge,
yeah,
are you
that
kidding
one-
me, dude?
I gotta say,
I
that one was pretty. That one also freaked
So
me
I
out.
didn't
That
think-
one also gave me the heebs-jeebs.
That one has a good aftermath, but I didn't think you'd pick that one because it doesn't like actually show like much of the actual kill. It shows like
No.
the horrific like
yeah, that's fair. I just thought because like when people talk about this movie, like that's usually the kill. I feel
Yeah.
like that gets talked about, and I fully am a bandwagoner on that because
it's terrifying.
every time like I love that kill so much, and I've seen this movie a handful of times now, but like every time like I get antsy like when I see her start fidgeting with the I don't know what you call it, the button on the back, the thing that I guess is what ultimately they, again, stupid, but they harness the power of Stonehenge, which guys they tell you that
Turned into a
Stonehenge
conspiracy thriller.
they tell you that Stonehenge weighs 5 tons. That is 10,000 pounds. How the fuck did they get a 10,000 pound rock into that facility?
He literally says, he's like, you wouldn't believe how he got it here.
You're
And
right,
I'm like,
you're
all
right.
right,
I
explain
wouldn't."
it to me. Explain how the fuck you did that.
That's a great trope in movies is when they're like, yeah, we don't know how to explain this, so they have the characters say, yeah, you're not gonna believe me.
You wouldn't believe me if I told you.
But
You
yeah,
said something
so,
like we had a time getting it in here or something like that. or-
yeah, I fucking bet you did, Connell Cochran. Which okay, I'd like to ask you guys then. Well, Josh, is the head getting ripped off? Is that your favorite kill in the movie?
No, so I'm between the one where Ellie's dad dies, where he like drills his fingers and he just like rips apart the skull.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
Because that one, like, you actually see it happening. However, the effects of Marge's kill is so good and it's so scary. And like you said, they build such great tension when she's fidgeting with the microchip.
Yeah.
And you're just waiting for that like beam to just like shoot at her, and like it it jolts me every time.
You know what that scene's
Oh,
ruined by
man.
though? You know what that scene's ruined by? It's fucking Tom Atkins drilling away at
Oh my
old
God,
Ellie,
yeah.
and then a fucking laser goes off, and she's like, "What's that?" And he's like, "Oh, don't worry about it," and then just continues,
Oh my
just
God.
continues fucking away.
He's so horny, man.
He's such an idiot too, dude. I'm sorry. When they're driving through the town at first, and the second they get into the town, every single fucking person and their mother looks at them, and she goes,
Yeah.
Ellie naturally is like, "Oh, I feel like I'm in a fishbowl," and Tom's dumbass goes, "Company town." The fuck are you talking? The fuck are you talking about, Tom? It being a company town does not make sense as to why every single person just looked at you as you drove in, you fucking moron.
That's fucking funny.
God, Tom Atkins, you dick. Actually, I hate saying that because I love Tom Atkins. Every time I watch this movie, I
He was
forget
great at being a dick.
his character's name.
Chalice.
Every single time I forget.
Dan.
Dr. Chalice.
Dan. Well, okay, he's great, but I mean, in terms of acting, like we all know the star of the movie is Dan O'Herlihy as
Not even
as
close.
Cochrane.
Oh,
like
man. He was great.
his evil monologue that he does at towards the end of the film, before they play Halloween for the 3rd time on TV, which listen. When I saw the interview of John Carpenter going,
I like that.
yeah, I like Halloween 3. That movie's different. Unlike that abomination piece of shit Halloween 2. But no wonder John Carpenter loves this fucking movie. They play a commercial for it, and in the commercial it goes, "The immortal classic, Halloween," which I'm sorry. I love
It's a little
Halloween.
bit of a stroke to his ego, then.
Immortal Classic. At the time, the movie had been out for 5 fucking years. Immortal Classic. Are you kidding me?
Damn, that was bold.
I guess they pegged it. They knew. Well, I mean, to be fair,
there you
like
go.
I watched a video recently where they had covered how many slashers got released in between Halloween 1 and 2, which is only a 3-year time gap, 78 to 81, and the guy had to have listed 25 plus movies that all got made in between that time. So yeah, but that's another thing is like there's so many, and I just made an entire slasher video on my YouTube channel about underrated slashers, where I made the claim that I'd say slashers are probably my favorite guilty pleasure. I love slashers of all variety, shitty ones, good ones, serious ones, silly ones, love them all. But
Cute
again,
ones.
cute ones. Final Girls is a cute slasher. I like that movie.
That was a fun one. I do.
Yeah.
I
I'll
did
have to
have fun
watch
with
that.
I think I have that scheduled for sometime next year for us to do.
Yeah.
So I'm excited.
Or do we?
That one has a lot of fun with camera work. There's like a couple scenes in there that really jumped out at me. But
It does.
but
And
we can have a conversation about that some other time.
absolutely.
I'll definitely go on
Sorry.
a tangent.
Sorry, only when there's a Final Girls 3, Josh.
Oh yeah, sorry. Yeah, I only participate in trilogies.
I forgot how that movie ended, so I don't even know if that baits for a sequel. I'm sure if you make a sequel to Happy Death Day, I'm sure you can make a sequel to which I like both Happy Death Day movies, and I'm very excited to see what that director Christopher Landon does with Scream 7, which should be very cool. And
Better be Christmassy.
It's supposedly Christmassy. I also saw a rumor that it's supposedly going to take place in London, which could be interesting. Have some British people in it, but yeah. Either way, back to this. I'm trying to look through my notes because I took so many fucking notes for this movie. If you guys are curious, they play the Silver Shamrock song 4 times in the first 11 minutes. If you were curious about that, and I wanted to bring up.
It got stuck in my head, man.
It will be stuck in your head for the next 2
I watched
fucking
it
weeks.
in pieces, and then I was like.
I was humming it at work all fucking day today. It was awful, but you do see Tom Atkins' ass in this movie. I don't know if I needed to. I don't.
Whole man cheek.
You see full on booty in this movie.
It's not bad though, right?
It's not. He's remotely in shape. Like he's
Cake.
It's just the fact that he's like 50 fucking years old
I
and
know.
banging a girl that looks like 20. Like she doesn't even look like she could buy a legal drink. Like
it's a problem when like every single female is into this guy. It really like it takes away the realism of
Right.
of the movie a little bit. Like come on. Yeah,
Well-
I don't know why this guy is supposed to be a ladies' man in the movie. I don't know why it works for the movie.
he's simply not.
It doesn't.
It's like
But
No.
yeah.
I'm all over the place with notes here because like we're like half touching on stuff I did note and then we're like jumping. So I
Yeah,
don't even
it's
know, like,
it's very sporadic.
We're
one of
just
the things
chilling, man. We're just having a good time talking about.
So you guys were talking about like what's his motive for going on this journey with Ellie.
Yeah, there is none.
I asked the same question and I'm like, well, so because I was trying to find that reason in the beginning when they're like talking. They go to the shop and they're trying to like, figure out like what the hell's going on with her dad.
Yeah.
Now, is it enough of a reason to like, yeah, he's probably trying to get some ass at one thing, but because he does say these were your dad's last words, they're going to kill us all. And then he died shortly after that. I don't know what's going on. I don't know what that means, but anybody would be concerned in a situation like that. No, I mean, maybe not enough to leave and go on this like detective journey, but
Yeah.
there's some, it's not just as like black and white as like, oh, he's just doing this to move the plot forward. There is, they kind of like touch on that to give like some kind of logic to it, to the thought process. So I don't know. It's
listen. They do give a sort of explanation, like, and it's in that scene where it's the bar scene, and he tries to like lie to Ellie and say like, when she's like, what are my father's last words, which I don't know, like, weird thing to ask. Also, backtracking half a second here, like, why does she need to see her father? Like, they told you that this was your father and that he was dead, and they're like, you probably shouldn't see this, and she's like, no, I have to. And then they show her and she's like, yep, that's him. Of course it is.
So I don't have a problem with that. That it sounds weird to like yeah, you know it, he's there, but
That's kind of funny.
there's that like
he got his eyes gouged out.
I don't know, man. There's some
if someone was like, hey, like you're someone that you love, they're dead, and yeah, they got their eyes gouged out by a madman who proceeded to set himself on fire.
I think that's a really common thing for people. Like when someone dies and it's like someone you're close to, or so, like even like a family member.
Yeah.
Especially when they're murdered by robots.
Especially if it's unexpected.
Yeah.
You kind of like don't. You have that longing to see them one more time, no matter what. And it's like once you see them, it's like you wish you didn't, but you're kind of like unreasonable in that moment.
No,
like, no, so like I think that works. I don't have a problem with that.
It's a nitpick. It's not like it doesn't like actually take off points from this movie. But what does is what we were talking about with Tom Atkins. He has no Josh. I think that this movie probably gets bumped up a point or two for me if you make one simple fucking change. You make Dr. Chalice, you make Tom Atkins' character a police officer or a detective. Just have him. A patient gets murdered, so it's natural that the police would arrive on the scene. So have him be a police officer. You could even like throw in some shit, like, because to your point, he makes a point that like he's so invested in this case because he's been working at this hospital for several years. He knows the people, and shit like this just doesn't happen. Fine, that's cool. You have a little bit of sense of like hometown pride, and I respect it, Tom Atkins. It's the only thing I respect about you in this movie. But for it to drive him to like literally abandon being a father and go out and do this like crazy investigative thing. He has kids. And also, I'm sorry, I know this is a horror film and we have to like overlook some shit. Like I can overlook dumb character decisions, but the second I got to that invasion of the body snatchers looking fucking town, I would bounce. Like, oh, I'm sorry. The second you drive in and everybody turns and looks at you, leave. Yeah. Go get the fucking police.
Get your ass out of here
and leave.
When they said that there was like curfew at like 6 p.m.
Yeah.
So
that like weirded me out a little bit.
Again, I'm trying my best to play devil's advocate because I agree with all of these points, and where it probably does dock some like it's gonna like this movie isn't perfect, right?
Oh, no.
Like it's there's gonna
even people who like unabashedly love this movie admit that it has flaws.
Like if I was to sit here and just like talk praise on this movie, I'd have to give it like an A+, but I'm not. So, but I will try to defend what I can, or maybe create some like food for thought.
Yeah.
Now this is. He's touched by this girl Ellie. Maybe he's just sexually attracted to her. I don't know, but she is gonna go on this investigation with him or without him. Is there just some sense of like, I don't know, guilt if he allows this to happen, knowing that her dad just died by this person? After hearing him say they're gonna kill us all, like there's like this I don't know, kind of like. Almost like secondhand response. Yeah, this he's responsible if he doesn't do something. Like, you know.
See, and I would totally buy into that. If he wasn't such a womanizing piece of shit.
I know. But actually that helps his motive. As shitty as that is, if he wasn't like a womanizer or like just driven by sex, then he would really have no reason to help this girl. But so maybe that's why they made him such a like sex maniac.
They were like, let's make him a good-hearted doctor and also a womanizing idiot.
And also a shitty dad and a shitty husband. Like, but I kind of like some of that stuff that they did. I don't need him to be I don't need like the womanizer aspect of him, but I do like that they try to give him a little depth with this guy is an alcoholic. He has an ex-wife that hates him. He like half-assed his job as a father, but he sometimes tries a little bit, but it's
I did feel bad during the scene when he gives the kids the masks, and they just look like the most disappointed kids I've ever seen.
There's that like they try to give him that redemption, I guess, of trying to do something right.
Yeah,
because he's done so much wrong. So I do like that they did what maybe what they could to try to give this guy more depth rather than just like making him a full on like hero.
Yeah,
you know?
I see where you're coming from. What are your thoughts, Aaron? How do you feel about is Josh swaying you onto the side of Dr. Chalice?
No.
Yeah, me neither.
Still a weird dude. I mean,
Yeah.
it's
he's
just
also,
it's
like,
just
an
not
idiot.
a nice guy.
It's hard to defend sometimes.
Dude, the scene when he runs into the bum in the alleyway, which like the guy that bum is my favorite character because he goes, can I have a drink? He goes, can I have a drink, sir? I swear I ain't got no diseases. And I wrote in my notes, I ain't got no diseases, says the dirtiest man I've ever seen in my life. Like he has like actual physical dirt on his face.
Oh my god, dude.
But so not you're still anti Tom Atkins, Aaron.
Yeah, no, he was stinky and he smelled bad.
Oh, Aaron, I asked, I know I got to Josh's. Did I ask you what your favorite kill is? What you?
It's definitely a toss up between the lady getting zapped in the face,
Yeah,
and that kid dying, because that was like, they both made me so uncomfortable and like made me like have a physical reaction as I was watching it. I was like curled up, like trying to protect myself from the disgusting,
dude.
like, whatever the hell.
It's like, and it's cool because I feel like one thing that's neat about like the first 3 Halloween movies that I think doesn't get talked about or gets a little overlooked is that each film gets progressively more dark and sadistic. Like the first film is your kind of like your not underrated. What's the word? It's in terms of like compared to other slashers in terms of the gore and the kills in the original. It's more subdued. Subdued is a good word because the first Halloween is very like reserved in terms of violence and gore, and whereas like we mentioned on the second episode, or I'm sorry, on our last week's episode on Halloween 2, Halloween 2 has way more gore, way more deaths, way more just shit going on. And it gets more sadistic, and that's why, like I had talked about in the documentary, the composer for Halloween 2 added those darker orchestral elements to the score to match the darker, more sadistic tone of the plot. But then you get Halloween 3, and it's like, all right, so it's not just one masked killer who's deranged and going around and killing people. It's this fucking like maniacal, evil, like almost mustache twirling corporate businessman who runs this town full of goddamn fucking robots and like crazy Irish people, which it's funny because they mention that it's an Irish town, but I still get caught off guard when the first guy you meet in that town has like the most cartoonish Irish accent like I've ever heard.
Yeah.
Like I feel like I just turned on like Luck of the Irish. But yeah, and then you get to this movie and it's like, oh, this is a plot about like this guy is trying to mass murder children, like full on kid genocide, and it's dark.
It's fucking terrifying. It was really dark.
You know what?
I was so caught off guard.
Right, you just don't go in expecting it, and that's why like I think 2 things. I think this movie got poor reception at first because of yes, it doesn't have Michael Myers, but I also think like I don't think people were prepared for a plot and a film that was this twisted.
Child genocide, yeah.
Child genocide in comparison to the first 2 movies where it's just like, oh, this crazy guy in a white mask going around and stabbing people, which like who knows, like even though he got multiple channels turned off, like sorry Tom Atkins, but like I know you're an optimistic guy, but this movie fully has like one of the more dark and dour endings I've ever seen in a horror film.
Oh, for sure.
It's just it's fucking terrifying. And I will say, one of the scariest shots in any of the Halloween films, in my opinion, is the wide shot where you see all of the robots at night and they're all lined up in a row.
Like right before they kidnap Ellie, right?
Yes, right before
Yeah.
they kidnap
Yep.
Ellie.
Reminds me
And which I wanted to ask you guys, because nobody online seems to have an honest answer, and a lot of people have different opinions. Do you think that Ellie was a robot the entire time, or do you think that she after she was kidnapped, that they made a robot version of her?
So I saw this question too. I definitely think she was not a robot the whole time.
Okay.
I think if she was, I would have a lot more problems with this movie.
Well, I think either route. I'm curious to hear what you have to say, Aaron. Because I know personally, I have problems either way. But Aaron, what do you think?
I'm not too sure how drastic my problems would be if that were the case, that she was a robot the entire time. But I think it would kind of make sense after, like, seeing how long did they know each other before they like slept with each other?
They technically
And they met at her like dad's
Yeah.
funeral.
yeah.
Which is like, I don't know, it's the weirdest thing. And like maybe like she was like a listening device for like Cochrane to like
Yes.
keep tabs on him.
But
Like I don't know if that would be like the worst thing, and especially because either way she's still dead at the end. Like
she is. But
yeah.
the reason that I have a problem with either scenario, and it kind of bugs me and kind of bogs down the ending, in my opinion, just a little bit, because there is a really great sense of like suspense and like you have this like go, like I need to get to like what, like I can't imagine what's going through like Dr. Chalice's head in that scene when he's like realizes like I have less than an hour and 10 minutes to try and turn off every single news station playing this ad across the entire country, like to save as many kids' lives as possible. Like I can't imagine and they do play on that very well. However, the reason that I have a problem with the Ellie robot thing is because in the first scenario, so if she's a robot the whole time, what fucking purpose does Cochrane have to have Ellie meet up with Dr. Chalice and lure him to this town just to kidnap him? Because what it does is it puts Dr. Chalice at risk of exposing their operation. So that's my problem with that. And in the second scenario, which is the more likely one, which is after she's kidnapped, they turn her into a robot. For practicality reasons, how the fuck did they make a robot version of her that fast? And B, that the robot version of her is completely complicit and assists him in destroying all the other robots and Cochrane. So if she was one of his robots, why didn't she turn on Dr. Chalice when he was about to drop all of the little laser buttons on the rest of the robots? So neither scenario makes sense.
So from watching this movie, I don't think that there's ever like intent for ambiguity, like for you to have to like come up with your own kind of conclusion other than like the ending where like we don't know if they ended up turning off that last channel or not.
Yeah.
Like I don't know. I don't know if it's meant to be read into based off of like how I like watch this movie. I don't see that being the case. But
I could see that.
I mean, either way I think like it wasn't the best way to handle it, but like I think at the end, I think that ending was just like
perfect.
yeah, it was fantastic. Chef's kiss.
Oh,
my compliments to the chef.
It's so hard because I love the ending of the original Halloween so much, and like it's just so pitch perfect like that, like especially if you like live in my fantasy world where there's only the first Halloween movie, and like Halloween, as much as I like Halloween 2 and even like something like H2O and whatnot, that ideal world where there's just that first Halloween movie with Michael Myers and that amazing ending where he gets shot out the window, and then the whole little exchange between Laurie and Dr. Loomis, And then, you know, him, obviously Loomis looking out there and seeing that Michael's gone. And then you get all those like abandoned shots of Haddonfield, which are awesome. But the ending of this movie is like you just jaw dropped. You're like, what the fuck just happened? Like, did like thousands of kids just die? Like,
Yeah,
who and like obviously it's probably easier back in the 1980s to like get that like a commercial pulled, but like imagine in today's day and age like trying to stop a commercial. Like they spend millions of dollars. Yeah, like they spend millions of dollars on commercials. Like they wouldn't pull that commercial for anybody. Like you a random fucking crazy person calling and being like, hey, thousands of kids are gonna die if you play this commercial. They'd be like, fuck off, you crazy person. Like
Yeah.
oh my god.
Have you guys read about like the novelization of this movie?
I did.
I have not.
Yeah, so it's definitely a lot darker. It ends with like it does confirm that he didn't get the last one turned off, and it ends with like the screaming children. Like you like I don't know if it like yeah.
Yo.
It pretty much just like I don't know if it shows the town and you just hear like the screams of the kids dying pretty much.
Jesus
That
Christ.
you know why that would have been really cool. It would have been a nice little callback to what I consider quite possibly one of my favorite Halloween centric montages, like not Halloween the movies, but Halloween like the holiday. Like when they do all the different shots of like the kids going out trick-or-treating, and you get all of those different towns, and then you get the most iconic one, and I want to believe that that's the one they used for the poster of the movie, but it's the Phoenixville, Arizona one, where it's like the three. Yeah, it is. It's, or at least it's that's what the poster is modeled after, but it's like the kids in their costumes walking as the sun is setting and they're silhouetted. Fucking amazing shot. Like,
oh, yeah, dude,
yeah.
I love that shot.
you know how much better all of the Halloween sequels would be if they just brought, you don't, because here's the thing. Again, we talked about Halloween 2 being awesome. We talked about this episode how much we all like Halloween 3. What's the one tying thing that like all three have? It's not John Carpenter. It's fucking Dean Cundey cinematography. Like, all three of his movies look fucking amazing. And, like, imagine bringing him back for, like, 4 or 5 and 6, like, and H2O, and, like, what if the new ones had brought him back? I mean, I don't know if he's passed away or anything, but I sure hope he hasn't. But, I don't know. It would have been cool. I like his cinematography a lot. Plus, he did The Thing, and that movie's fucking awesome.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Dude, his
Still haven't watched it, man.
oh yeah, we're doing it in January. It's one of our January episodes. We're doing The Thing. We're doing all like cold winter centric
nice
horror based films. I think we're doing I think we're actually bringing our mutual friend Josh Michelle on for one of those January episodes. Trying to do a old versus new of The Shining versus Doctor Sleep, because
Nice.
she loves The Shining, and Doctor Sleep is well,
I still haven't seen
it's
it.
a movie that exists.
I haven't seen it.
I'm curious to do a rewatch because I've only seen it the one time, and I did not go in with an unbiased set of eyes per se. Yeah,
I can't wait to watch that movie and love it, so Jake can hate it.
I would love that. That would create such a great, like, me getting to tell you why you're wrong for an hour and 20 minutes is like sounds amazing. Looking through my notes.
Wait, Jake. So real quick, just to like, when we're talking about the like changing her into a robot, and like why would they do that if it, and why would she not stop Chalice from like killing them and kind of like foiling their plan? Is it possible that Cochran was okay with like them dying along with like, I don't know why, but like is that like something to like think about? Because like he doesn't give a shit. He doesn't give a shit. He's just like, my plan is still like.
So wait, okay, because then that makes the movie even dumber, Josh. Because then why did he expect Tom Atkins to escape? Like he tied him up and put a mask over his head, anticipating.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense.
No, it doesn't.
Yeah. That makes sense.
Well, okay, so I don't know if you guys did how much research you did on like the making of, but one thing that struck, kind of caught my attention was this movie had a lot of hands in the pot. Like, you ever heard of the expression "too many cooks in the kitchen"?
Yeah.
Because what's interesting, and they mention it in the documentary, but Tommy Lee Wallace, the director, is given the sole writing and directing credits. However, a famous British screenwriter whose first name is Nigel and last name I cannot remember wrote Nigel Neal. Okay,
Yeah.
so Nigel Neal wrote the original draft of the script, and it was much more built around suspense and like that old Hitchcockian suspense with little to no gore. And basically, John Carpenter took that script, did a rewrite of it, added more gore, added more kills into it, and then Tommy Lee Wallace, who ended up directing the film, rewrote on top of what John Carpenter had already rewritten. So you get a guy who writes a script, another dude comes in, rewrites that thing, and then a third dude comes in and rewrites it. So like, no wonder like some of the shit doesn't add up. Like,
Which I'm wondering why Carpenter and Wallace didn't get credits, because John Carpenter was still like very much involved with the project. His name is on it. Like Nigel Neal didn't want his name to be associated with it because that's like the Quatermass guy. So he's very heavy into like science fiction.
okay.
And I think that's what this movie centered around, is like science fiction and more harped on like the witchcraft culture and not so much on the like gory portion of it and like the, you know, the kills pretty much. So I guess he was upset when it got the rewrite, and he was just like, listen, I don't want to be like, I'm kind of done with the project. I don't want my name affiliated with it. So that makes sense, but I don't get why John Carpenter's name isn't part of the writing.
I don't either, and it sounds like Tommy Lee Wallace himself is confused, because in the documentary, he's like, that's like the sole writing credit is the most misleading thing I've ever seen. He's like, it makes no sense because I didn't write the original draft. I didn't do the first rewrite. I came in at the end before we started filming to like add my style into it. And it sounds like he did his rewrite without John Carpenter's knowledge, which is kind of cool. I love John Carpenter, but I'm still mad he called Halloween 2 an abomination. But you know what's crazy is that despite that Nigel Neal guy wanting his name off of this because they didn't like the kills and the gore, which I get, and I respect your creative decisions, but those are the best parts of the movie, are the kills and the music and like the cinematography.
So?
Yeah, I definitely don't think it's the script that is the best. There's like a 5-minute sex scene. And also, Josh, they packed light for this trip, right? Like they weren't planning on taking this trip. So why the fuck does she have lingerie? Can anyone explain why she just has lingerie packed in her tiny suitcase?
So I think I think there's questionable moments in the script. However, I think the strength of this movie are the layers that are written within the script. I think they do a lot of really like intelligent stuff with their themes. Like I think the draw to this is like the witchcraft theme. Like I think that really drives everything into like more so like the originality portion of it.
Yeah.
That's what gives us a lot of like spark. Now, I mean, honestly, I still probably say the music is the highlight, but that's like cinematography, yes, great, but I really just like the more the conceptual writing, not so much like the scene by scene writing. You know, I think there's some questionable stuff in there, but this movie has a lot of depth, like a lot. I mean, I wrote like a lot of stuff that I really love. Like they put a lot of stuff with like the commercialism and consumerism that Dawn of the Dead plays with, which is a huge driving factor of that movie. And I think they do it really nicely combined with like I think Tommy Lee Wallace was quoted saying, witchcraft meets the computer age, and they blend those things so nicely.
Do you know whose idea that was?
What?
To like make Halloween, essentially Halloween 3, to have like that sci-fi like computer age meets witchcraft thing?
So, no, I don't.
It was actually Deborah Hill, John Carpenter's wife, who helped produce the first two. Yeah.
So I got different stories.
That's cool.
when I was reading this. I wrote down that John Carpenter and Deborah Hill wanted to just do the anthology stuff. They wanted to do the holiday stuff centered around like monsters and ghosts and aliens and shit like that. Like pretty much Twilight Zone feature length each year, but like centered around like Halloween.
I'm
like,
so sad we didn't get that.
I know.
Could you
But then I
imagine
saw,
the
like, another
possibilities?
story. I saw another story like that had Carpenter and Nigel Neal, like they had like dinner together and they were talking about they were talking about like a Halloween sequel. Let me just look at my notes here.
Yeah, that's I'm actually intrigued because I did research, but I did not come across this conversation.
This doesn't seem accurate because it just, I don't know. It says John Carpenter asked Nigel if he wanted to do a third Halloween movie with Michael Myers, and Nigel said he wanted to do an original story. Now, then Carpenter says that he always wanted to do something different without Michael Myers. So I don't know what to believe. It's so hard because
that is intriguing. That is conflicting because I've always been under the impression from everything that I've read that Carpenter has always wanted to do the anthology thing, and he didn't even want like a Halloween 2. Like the only reason he did that was because like the studio kept pestering his ass, and even then I think he's like, yeah, I'll make Halloween 2. I'm just gonna go make The Fog first.
Yeah, so it doesn't make sense. That's why I'm more on the side of like Carpenter and Deborah Hill like coming together and like wanting to do this. But I also think Nigel Neal played a part in that. I just don't know why it's like such a different story. But whatever, it doesn't make sense to me because clearly Carpenter hated the second one. So why would he want to do a third one with Michael Myers?
Yeah.
I don't know. But I did also read that he tried to write the fourth film when the studio was just like harping on him to extend the universe with Michael Myers, and he tried to like do Haddonfield after like the aftermath of Haddonfield and the effects of Michael Myers, like centered around do like a psychological.
Oh, like Halloween Ends.
Yeah, pretty much. Pretty much,
Exactly
I
like
guess.
that movie.
But he tried to just do something different, but they were like, "No, we need Michael Myers," and he was like, "I'm done." Then he just washed his hands, and he was like, I'm trying to do stuff different, and you guys just want the same boring shit.
Oh,
and
a studio not wanting creativity and wanting the same shit? I'm shocked.
Now, this interesting thing I read, I was reading through like some reviews of this.
Yeah.
And it was just a cool little like correlation between Carpenter and Chalice, like the Tom Atkins character. They were comparing him to Chalice at the end of the Halloween 3 and how John Carpenter was with the studio. Like just Carpenter like begging them to just put an end to Michael Myers before it was like too late and you ruined the character. And that's what happened. Like they did too much and they just ruined Michael Myers.
Who could have guessed? Who could have guessed making 13 fucking movies would harm a character's presence in cinema culture?
But I thought that was a fun little connection. Like that it was intentional, but that's like just a
Well, speaking of Halloween Ends, I guess that's a perfect time to bring up one of my questions that I wanted to pose to either of you guys. So, because we've all seen Halloween Ends, and Aaron, I'm not sure if we've ever spoken about it, but
I think we said it. Yeah, I think I watched it on Peacock, and I was like, "Oh yeah, I just watched it on Peacock," and you're like, "Oh, did you?" Like so, like upset because you had also watched it, and we're not a fan of it.
So yeah, I'm not a fan of that movie, and we'll talk about it on this podcast at some point. I'm sure of it, because I have so many thoughts on those movies. I have thoughts on all the Halloween movies except for the fifth one, which I don't want to talk about that movie. Because it's so fucking boring. Holy shit, is it boring. And the kills aren't even good, and that's so disappointing. Shit, I lost my train of thought. What was I talking about?
Hey, man.
Oh, my question. Okay, yeah. So my question is, because it ties into and correlates to this movie. So this was a movie that, upon release, was universally panned, universally hated by pretty much everybody who saw it because it did something different and was unique and went against the mold of what people expected for a Halloween movie. Now, with that in mind, we all know that Halloween Ends, despite, again, Aaron, I'm not sure if you like it. I know you don't, Josh, but regardless, it is a very critically panned movie. It is not well received. And most of that is because it is different. It is certainly unique, and because it goes against the mold of what you'd expect for a Halloween movie. So my question to you guys is, do you think 15 years from now that Halloween Ends will start to garner a cult following of people who really love this movie solely because it is so much different than every other Halloween movie?
I could see it. Oh, I could definitely see it. But guess who won't be on that
Yeah.
train? It will not. It will not be me. It will not be me. Because the thing is,
It'll be that grouchy old man like, Halloween ends still sucks.
No, he's gonna be like that guy, and he's gonna be like Brian Cox in Trick or Treat. Like, what the fuck?
Oh, Mr. Krieg.
the shift doesn't make sense. Like the thing is with the original Halloween trilogy, if you want to call it that, but it's the first two, and there's an end. It ends the story, so I wouldn't expect, and if it did whatever, but the new trilogy, it's a continuous story. So the first two are very Michael Myers focused, like it's driven by that storyline, and then all of a sudden it's a jump. It's an abrupt shift in focus, and it just doesn't work. And I'm fine with doing original stuff. It doesn't mean every time you do it, it's going to be good.
No, I agree. Like I don't want to say. No, I'm not going to say I applaud David Gordon Green for what he's fucking David Gordon Green. I'm actually thinking about, speaking of him, renting Exorcist Believer this weekend, and I'm feeling a little masochistic, so I may try to torture myself by sitting down and watching that movie, which somehow has a lower Rotten Tomatoes score than Halloween Kills and Halloween Ends. And the thought of a movie being worse than those two is, I'm actually kind of excited. I'm trying to
Applaud you, man.
I almost thought about seeing it in theaters, but did not do that. It's random note because I probably took 40 to 50 notes down. But we already talked about Conal Cochran, and especially that like monologue he has to Dr. Chalice towards the end of the film. But the way, one of the most bone-chilling line deliveries I think I've seen in a horror movie is the way that he says "Happy Halloween" at the end of that monologue, where he's like, he's like, "Happy Halloween," and it just like walks away, and it's so maniacal and evil, and I fucking
it was creepy.
Fun fact about him too that I learned, because obviously he wasn't in the documentary because he was old as shit when the movie got made, let alone years later when they. But so it was sort of like a Doctor or a Donald Pleasance as Dr. Loomis situation where everybody else was kind of a relatively unknown, smaller named actor, but they brought in Dan O'Herlihy to play Conal Cochran as like sort of the veteran actor, the guy who's been around the block a few times. And they said not only did he bring an excellent energy to the set and that veteran presence, similar to how Donald Pleasance did in the original film, but he also did a vast amount of research on Celtic lore and Celtic traditions. So he kind of served as like the knowledge guy on set, because I don't think we mentioned
Celtic
it,
ambassador.
but yeah, as the Celtic ambassador, and we've talked about it being like an Irish town, but it's also he mentions during his monologue about like the Celtic traditions and the Celtic festivals and him growing up in Ireland and the traditions and stuff. So I just thought it was cool that like he showed up on set and like had all that background knowledge. Yeah, he came prepared. He did his homework, which is cool to see.
Yeah, man.
Yeah,
I appreciate it.
Can we talk about how these super popular masks that these kids are like fucking killing people over, like they're going crazy over these masks, are like the 3 most generic Halloween masks. Like
So true.
well, like when you're in the
It's so
factory,
funny.
they clearly have a lot of like different masks that are like more intricate.
yeah.
Like you see just a line and they're all different. So I'm wondering what the draw was to. I mean, I like them a lot, but they're like just like very classic like figures of Halloween. But
Yeah,
it's still,
they're cool.
but
They're
as a
just generic as hell.
But as a little kid,
Definitely.
I'd probably like one of the more like detailed ones that look a little like scarier.
Yeah.
Not as like simple. As I got older, I probably like the more simple, classic looking ones.
Well, I was
But-
always as a kid dressing up. I don't know how you guys were, but since I was like, and I assume we all grew up loving movies, but I was always like, I want to dress up as like a character from like a show or a movie. Like I never went as like, and maybe when I was really, really little, but like once I like started watching TV and movies, like whatever age that was, from there on, it was like, oh, I want to go as Yu-Gi-Oh or Spider-Man or like all these cool characters that I grew up with, as opposed to like generic ninja or like generic zombie.
I was always a mask kid.
Mask.
I didn't get Halloween when I was younger.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to open up old wounds.
Yeah.
Are you
bringing up old information that I've shared on this podcast?
That
Listen
was
to our previous episodes.
It was a year ago. I'm sorry. I did forget that. But are you going trick or treating this year?
I don't fucking know. I'm 23.
So what?
I mean, I'd love to.
I'm going, but just to take my nephew out. I'm not. Which I am
I'll
going
be
as
dressing up.
I'm going as Michael Myers this year for the listeners, and my costume came in. I tested it. My nephew is very young. I tested it in front of him. He didn't get scared. So before anyone comes at me with pitchfork and torches, I made sure he was cool. I made sure he was cool with the mask.
You know what I'm going as?
No, what?
I'm going as Connell Cochran.
Are you really?
No.
Oh. I was like, wait, that's just like what, white hair and a suit?
That would have been so awesome.
I'm just gonna walk the streets just memorizing his monologue and just delivering it to no one. I'm just gonna be saying it.
Cut to the news, the local news channel. Local crazy man walking around the streets reciting Halloween 3 lines. Aaron, what are you dressing up as this year? If you want to tell us, you don't have to spoil it.
You know what? It's fine. I got something of that one. Hang on.
Oh, do you have it in
nobody's
front of
gonna
you?
be able to see it. I do.
Yeah,
it's
we
just
don't.
right. It's just right next to him at all times.
It's not complete. It is. This is my character pulling a hammer out of a pocket thing. So I got this shirt from
nice.
from Spirit Halloween. For those of you who can't see because this is a podcast, it's like a orange plaid shirt with Sam from Trick or Treat on the back. There's also a little image on the front, and I also have a Sam mask in my car.
Nice.
And I wanted to whip it out, but I unfortunately I don't feel like walking in my car right now.
Yeah, you gotta get the lollipop and like carve it out.
I'm thinking about it because they gave me another like 20% off of one item coupon, so I think I may as well do that.
I fucking love Trick or Treat. That movie's so good.
Trick or Treat's my my favorite Halloween
still to this
movie.
day, guys. We only have 2 10 out of 10s on this podcast, and that was Aaron's one for Trick or Treat, and I have only given a 10 out of 10 to Halloween, but I will spoil it for our listeners. I know in the next few months there are going to be at least 1, maybe 2 10 out of 10s on this podcast. On my end, at least. Hopefully Aaron's, or I'm going to give him shit for it.
Yeah.
Because you still didn't give Halloween 1 a 10 out of 10, and that still pisses me off.
It was all right. I really liked it. It was fun.
I
told you my so Josh, you know my controversial opinion, which is
I heard that.
I just might like the second one over the first one.
I'm not even mad about it. Like, I should be, but I'm not.
I'm scared to tell you.
Well, when you first texted me, I did immediately write "take it back," because it just hurt my soul. One thing, and I want to point this out. I don't want anyone to come at me because I don't want to like say this and people be like, oh, you stole that from another podcast. I love The Horror Show, guys. It's like a really good podcast, and if you like ours, you're probably gonna like that. They talk about horror movies, but they've done an episode on Halloween 3, and I think something that they point out that makes a lot more sense, that draws in all of our criticisms for Dr. Chalice and Tom Atkins in the movie, is they try to make him like a James Bond character. Like, he's constantly seducing women, he's constantly drinking, and he has this like sense of like do good Mr. Moral type stuff. Like, and obviously the film is very suspenseful, and he's like investigating shit like this, like conspiracy. Like, it's almost like a discount James Bond movie with like a really sadistic, I guess, horrifying witchcraft plot, which I know he practices witchcraft, but there's no witches in this movie. He calls himself a warlock, not a witch, so should be Halloween 3 Season of the Warlock, which honestly that title kind of goes hard. I don't know. What a world would have been if this movie just dropped the Halloween moniker and just been a standalone thing, or if people weren't assholes. Like, I'll say it now and I'll say it again, like, there is very misleading marketing out there. We brought up Halloween Ends. Like, that movie was very clearly marketed as the climactic showdown between Laurie Strode and Michael Myers, only for 90% of the movie to just not be about that. But stop going into movies expecting something, and then when it's not that exact thing, getting pissed off, because Halloween 3 is a prime example of why you shouldn't do that. Idiots.
It's very bad to do, and I sometimes fall victim to it, and you really can't, because it's not fair to the movie for you to just expect something and be like this. Yeah, and this is a prime example, because you actually have like a solid movie that does like really cool things, and people just absolutely shitting all over for no reason.
This is not a bad movie. If you want to talk about, if we want to bring up the horror show, they both didn't like this movie. The two guys on that podcast, they did not like this movie, saying it was a bad movie. And I firmly disagree that this is a bad movie.
That's shocking. I didn't listen to that episode, so
I just don't. There are bad movies, and if you want to see what a bad Halloween movie looks like that has the Halloween name in the title, check out 5, 6, Resurrections, Kills, Ends. Yeah, that's about it.
I don't even think it's like I wouldn't even entertain someone. I'd entertain it, whatever. If someone, I don't even think it's like an average movie. I think this is a good horror movie.
Yeah,
like,
it's very,
I would say so, yeah.
very well crafted. Like, music's great, direction is great, fucking cinematography is top notch as always. The effects, we talked about the kills, but like briefly touched upon how good the effects are. Like, not just
I did enjoy the effects.
Yeah, not just Marge's death, but when obviously the one kill where the head gets pulled off, like, great effect, like, super well done. I'm really surprised that our boy Tom Savini didn't do this movie, because the effects are just...
Yeah, he would have had a field day.
What I noticed with him, he specializes in special effects where you have to show like a knife or a weapon going into somebody. Like, that is his bread and butter. And also, I guess you could say Dawn of the Dead with like the bites, like, because the bites look fantastic in that movie.
Oh yeah.
Shout out, go listen to our Dawn of the Dead episode. Still our highest, still our highest listened to episode.
Highest heard.
I gotta bring up a couple music points. Just some notes I had of like some of my favorite musical moments in the movie.
Feel free.
Go for it.
Probably, honestly, the opening credits, the syncing up to the computer animation that they did is just so good, because each like section of the pumpkin that's being drawn out electronically is just line by line. It's like different speeds each time it cuts to it. It's just so good. Oh man, I might just go watch it again. Like, I could just watch those opening credits all the time.
It's good. A little long.
Oh, I'm fine.
Little long.
I wish it was longer, honestly. But that, and also I think the track is called, there's a couple tracks I really love, but the scene itself, it's called First Chase. I think that's the track. It's when you get that line of the robots that are staring at him and chase him.
Oh yeah.
And it just like hits that track. That's such a good one. My favorite is probably Chariots of Pumpkins, which is like
naturally,
like that's the best one.
The best one.
The grandma scene was creepy. Did anybody remember that one?
I remember that one.
Yeah.
That was a creepy
Where he
scene.
like goes up and he's like, hello, and then he like touches her, like her head just straight falls off, and it's like, ew.
Well, I didn't
Comfy, and then like her hand's still like moving, and they're like focusing on it for a while, and I'm like, ew.
the fucking head falling off and like the twitching and like I didn't mention it with the special effects, but when it's a great performance and a great special effects moment all in one, because when Tom Atkins first kills that first robot and he like punches through its guts and just pulls out the like orange slime covered like robot intestines, great effect. Followed by Tom Atkins giving a really good performance just in facial expression alone, but like he just has this like defeated, like there's nothing I can do to win kind of look. Like the two robots,
he like the two robots, they like grab his like jacket, and he's just like doesn't even bother like shaking off.
No, he's like, fuck it, I guess I'm done for.
That went hard.
Yeah, that was
like
awesome.
They're like the inside of a pumpkin. It's just like orange goop that comes out of them.
It is very holy shit. I never put two and two together. It's very like the innards of an orange, like a pumpkin.
Yeah.
That's cool. Because orange is like
antifreeze.
Antifreeze. Is antifreeze orange?
Can be.
I thought it was blue. Or am I thinking of coolant? I think I'm thinking of coolant. I don't know shit about cars. I don't. Which is crazy because my dad's a fucking mechanic. But
You're silly, man.
I am very silly. This movie's also silly at times. Especially the sex.
I would also say so.
It's very sinister and silly at times, which is interesting dynamics. But I don't think it's intentionally silly. Yeah. It's not like Evil Dead 2 where it's like intentionally comedic at times. I think the shit that I laugh at, I'm not supposed to be laughing at. Any other musical moments, Josh, that you didn't touch on?
Well, something about the music. A lot of it was improvised by Carpenter and Alan Howarth. I think they would like take out their synths and just like I think watch like scene by scene and just kind of like play around with it, which I don't know if that's like what a lot of people do. I thought like they usually write out music beforehand.
And for every short film I've made, I do the music for this channel, like the opening, the two openings that we've had. I've done both of those, as well as like I do the background music for my YouTube channel most of the time. But even for the short films that I've scored, I kind of do the same thing, because obviously I've always been a big fan of John Carpenter's music and like the music and like It Follows and that 80s synth score, which I love. I just love synths. They sound so cool. But anytime I've scored a short film, I do the same thing. Like I use GarageBand because I'm, a beginner at that shit. But I just watch the scene and then play around with the different synth keys and see what works.
It feels like a good way to do it, because you're like getting the scene in the moment to like try to like match like what you're feeling.
Exactly.
Maybe? I don't know.
It's like, instead of like, oh, I'm gonna try to like fit this piece of music into a scene, it's more so, how does this scene make me feel, and what kind of notes is it going to evoke in the music, like. Which is cool. Like, it's a cool way to do it. I don't know what the track is, but the first scene, like right after the pumpkin credits, with the TV screen, where you get that super wide shot and you get Ellie's dad just running at you, and he's like, I don't know what that track is, but
that's the Chariot. That's Chariots of Pumpkins.
That's what I thought. So fucking good. Great way to open the movie. Great opening and great ending. Like, really solid stuff. Like like nice bookend too.
His scream fading into like the credits and then the music like pulling in.
Yeah. Oh, his scream is, whew. Tom Atkins, man. He was
there was something I had a note here of like something that bothered me. Was Marge, the motel lady that got her face blasted off. Now, you guys gotta remind me maybe.
Tom Atkins' actual wife. Fun fact.
Is it really?
Yeah, Marge is Tom Atkins' real life wife.
Interesting.
Damn, that's awesome.
But she gets the mask, right? And it doesn't have the medallion, like the shamrock thing attached to it. Why?
Because she says that her kid was thrown, because I wrote it in my notes. She makes a comment.
real with it,
She's like, yeah, she's like, granted, my kid was throwing it against the wall, but I don't think the thing should just come off, because I wrote in my notes, what the fuck do you mean it's not your kid's fault? He was throwing it against the goddamn wall, you idiot.
Well, so okay, a problem I have, and it might be nitpicky, but I don't know. It just didn't make sense to me. It's like, first off, all right, she sees the thing and she sees like a microchip. Would someone really be that like, I don't know, detective about it and like get a bobby pin and start like playing with the microchip? What's her goal there? I don't know what she's doing. It's like,
yeah, I don't know.
I don't know what.
Curiosity killed the Marge.
And how did it beam her? Because they say misfire. So that was still an accident though, no? Like she triggered. Well, she triggered something and it like triggered the beam.
Yeah. Technically, it is a misfire. Like, it wasn't an intentional, like, it wasn't supposed to go off, but, you know, Marge was fucking around. And
so then a problem I have is, how the fuck do you not have more security on your shit? Like, millions of people are getting these masks. You're telling me, like, someone didn't, like, get the chip off and, like, play around with it? Like, how did this never happen to anyone else? But like,
that's because
I think
most of this plot doesn't make fucking sense. They show later on in the movie that fucking like Tom Atkins, they've been wiretapping his phone. They've been clearly listening to him because they go to kill the nurse woman that has been helping him this whole time. Like, she's been investigating like the remnants, and so they go to kill her. She's the one who gets the drill through the head. But it doesn't make any fucking sense, because if you've been monitoring, why the fuck at the end, like, why did you even just like let him get into your town? Why the fuck didn't you just kill him and Ellie like right away? Like, he's clearly investigating you. Why did you let him like stay in the motel, snoop around your factory? Like, is it just like as simple as Cochran likes to fuck around with people? Is that
Well,
like
I was literally gonna say, because like
he does
that's what
say
he
like
kinda
when he's
showed.
doing
He's
the
like a
monologue
tricky
that
guy.
the
He's
kids like it's a trick on the children. Like,
he says, I do love a good joke.
yeah.
oh, Cochran, you pesky little Irish bastard.
Yeah, because I also was gonna
silly
ask,
bitch.
like, how did they know to get her name? What was it? Teddy, the nurse lady, or the autopsy woman?
I couldn't tell you her name. I couldn't tell you most characters' names in this movie.
I was gonna say, how did they know to like track her down and kill her? They said
They were
that
they were tapping his phones and listening to his
I
conversations.
just forget about that part.
And he kept fucking calling her and being like, "Any update?" And she's like, "No," every fucking time. And then it took her like so long to figure out that these are like car parts and like mechanical parts, and like you think that'd be like a 2-second discovery, like, oh, there's literally no bones, teeth, or any human remnants. Like, the fuck is this lady doing?
Man,
Not the most well-run hospital per se.
That's probably why they have their
I don't know.
doctors running around. Being
I don't know. A lot of this
detectives
movie
and
doesn't make sense. But I still
do you think a lot of it?
yes. The soul, like the soul not the soul. The soul. He's definitely the protagonist of the movie. The main protagonist of the movie has no reason to be doing anything that he's doing. They make him super unlikable, which is not a great look for your protagonist.
I think in the first half they do, but I do think he has like a good second half.
I guess
that kind of makes him a little redeemable. I think.
I mean, like, listen, it's not like I keep joking that he's like a huge piece of shit. He's not. He's not like an actual piece of shit person. He's just kind of an idiot and kind of a jackass, and like acts like really weirdly gross towards women. And I mean, listen, it's like the 80s, so like men like harassing women, like, and them just being fine with it is not like, it's not unique to this movie. I also like the idea of like a flawed character. Like, it's not like, this is a real kind of character. This is a. But you're I don't know. But here's the thing, Josh, is I don't think that when they were making the movie, they intended to make him flawed like that. I don't think they see him flirting with all these women as flawed.
I think that's the worst part. That's the worst part that's like distracting, is like the consistent. Like,
they also make him a dumbass, and they also don't give a good reason why he should be there. There's no reason that Cochran should let him even fuck with his scheme, because like the point where I don't know who brought it up, but that like, oh, like maybe Cochran didn't care that the robots were going to get destroyed, but ultimately what ended up happening is Tom Atkins' character escapes after killing everybody and is able to successfully turn it off multiple channels. So his big sacrifice gets severely diminished by Tom Atkins' actions. Like,
Yeah.
it's very like spy movie-esque, right down to the like monologue and like
conspiracy
tying
thriller.
up the protagonist, giving them time to escape. And of fucking course, of all plot conveniences, Cochran's watching the camera, but then receives a phone call and is like, all right, I guess I gotta fucking take this call and not look at the camera anymore. Idiot. Yeah. Is Aaron still... He's frozen on my screen. Are you still there, Aaron?
He's good
I'm
on
chilling.
mine.
Oh, okay. For some reason, he's got the exclamation point
Oh.
Same
on
thing
mine,
for Jake.
which I couldn't tell. But listen, I've covered a lot of my notes and thoughts. I know they're a little sporadic. I'm not sure if there's other things that you guys want to specifically talk about, scenes that you really like, or...
Me, I think we've just about covered it.
Honestly,
I
yeah,
thought
I was sprinkling in my
That's
notes
pretty great.
throughout the conversations too.
As did I. There was a kind of fun tidbit that I thought was kind of fun that made me like Tom Atkins, the actor, not the character he plays, but made me like Tom Atkins a little bit more. Like I said, he seems like a really cool dude, but in the documentary he was talking about, and it's the scene when he's like trying to escape, I think, and he has to climb up a ladder. He had pneumonia at the time, so he was like, in the documentary he says, quote unquote, I was sick as a dog doing that scene. He's like, and they just kept making me do this take like multiple times, like having to climb up this ladder. Meanwhile, I'm really sick, and he's like, if I have to go up that ladder one more time, I'm gonna pass out. And then it cuts to him climbing up the ladder in the movie, and then it cuts back to the documentary in the interview, and he's like, and the whole time I was thinking, man, do I love being an actor, in like a really sincere way, not like joking around. Like he genuinely, as sick as he was during the filming of that scene, like he just loves it, and like loves being a part of it, and loves acting and being a performer, and it was cool to see. That's really all.
I like hearing that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
It's like making it seem like it's a fun time to do
Oh
things
shit.
and whatnot.
Okay, one last major thing that I at least want to talk about, and then if you guys have other stuff, and then if not, we can get into our next week's recommendation and scores and self plugs and all that stuff. But the one thing that I think goes overlooked in terms of the finale of this movie and like the final climax is a really nice setup and payoff that, again, when you hear people talking about this movie, doesn't get talked about enough. I totally forget by the end of the movie that his kids have these masks. Like, his kids are wearing the silver shamrock masks.
Man.
He calls his wife, who fucking hates him. He is begging his ass off for her to take the masks off the kid, and all she does is curse him out and hang up. Like, you can hear another great Tom Atkins performance. You can hear the desperation and anxiety in his voice. Like, it's so good.
Damn, man. Yeah, no, that's definitely a good one to bring up,
But,
because that
That was
made me like feel
really
things,
it
man.
for everything that I wanted to talk
Well,
about.
you definitely reminded me of one of my final notes I didn't bring up. The end and his last phone call with his wife is like two of like his highlights in this movie.
Oh yeah,
Because like he's so good in that phone call, and it's just like it's like heartbreaking when he's like he's like just get rid of the masks, like just trust me, and just like
yeah.
kids die because of it.
She's like, and dude, it's even emphasized. What's even better about it is he can't even scream into the phone because he's still in the facility and the robots are still casing the area looking for him.
So he's like,
So
Why
he,
they put that together?
he can't even scream into the phone and say like, bitch, take the fucking mask off the kids. He has to like be quiet or he's gonna get caught. Like, it's a very well structured and directed scene, like, and we're very well acted. Like, fucking Tom Atkins is great. But Yeah, I don't know about you guys. Aaron, is there any other scenes or moments you want to talk about? Sorry, guys, for the technical difficulties. FaceTime can be a little bit of a bitch sometimes. Probably my shitty Wi-Fi, but yeah. Sorry, I was just asking Aaron if there was any other scenes or moments that he wanted to bring up.
Nothing really for me, man. I just generally think like this was just such a good movie to like you just have to go in knowing that it's gonna be a different story, not with Michael Myers in it, and it's just it felt like I've said before, I've compared it to like Twilight Zone and Black Mirror, and I really like that kind of like creepy, and then it gets like really dark and the well, you did mention, Josh, about how like the ending isn't too ambiguous and after reading the novelization, and it just makes it even darker, and it's like a really cool story. Its own like thing.
Fun fact that Josh didn't bring up about the novelization is that not only does it go into more depth, but it's kind of funny that since this movie got such a poor reaction, the novelization was actually a New York Times bestseller for 4 straight years. So people love the fucking book, but apparently at the time hated the movie. So I thought that was kind of neat.
That makes very little sense though. Like I didn't read the book, but they're pretty similar. I think.
Was the book also called Halloween 3 Season of the Witch, or was it just called Season of the Witch?
I don't know,
because I don't
remember.
I don't think the first 2 Halloween movies have novelizations, do they?
Not that I know. Not that I've heard about.
What the fuck are you gonna write? Like it's half that movie is just Michael Myers watching people. Now I want So Aaron, I wanted to address your thing. I think I know the answer, but so as someone who knew going into this that Michael Myers isn't in it, if you were to recommend this movie to somebody, would you give them that advanced knowledge, or would you kind of like let them go into it a little bit blind and let them experience that him not being in there?
100%, I would absolutely let them know that Michael Myers is not in this movie.
Okay.
I think
I agree.
it like trying to like put it into perspective as to how widely known it is that it was like poorly received. Like it makes a fellow wonder how many people at that point really couldn't separate the idea that Halloween needed to have Michael Myers in it versus just having a good story revolving around Halloween. So I don't know.
Yeah.
I think I would definitely just let them know beforehand, like that he wasn't, but like to strap in, like it's a different story.
It's a different story. Different story, and even though it has like that synth score and the same style of cinematography as the previous 2 Halloween movies, in terms of plot, really could not be more different. Like very different, and like Josh said, a lot of cool stuff with like the consumerism angle and all that stuff that they do it well here. I don't think they do it nearly as well as they do in Dawn of the Dead, where I think that's like the perfect allegory for consumerism and stuff, but they do a neat job here. It does, I would agree, it does have more depth and I guess characterization than the previous Halloween movies, because even though I hate Tom Atkins' character in this movie from like every conceivable standpoint, I just think he's a jackass. He is, I guess, more fleshed out than Laurie Strode in a sense, which they don't really give her much in terms of backstory or anything like that. So yeah, it is interesting. But if everybody has gotten their thoughts and has spoken out their notes and whatnot, do you guys want to get into scores for this movie or?
Sure, man. Sure.
All right.
I'm down.
Cool. So yeah, I'll kick us off here, I guess. And Josh, if you've listened, I'm sure you're aware we do decimal scores, which I'm sure you're a fan of. So feel free to give it the most, point 12567 that you need, but yeah, I have a feeling based on this conversation that I am going to have the lowest score of the 3 of us. But I'm still going to give this movie a positive score because I do thoroughly enjoy this movie. I almost give it a 7, but I'm gonna give it a 6.8. Dr. Chalice is a piece of shit out of 10. So a clean 6.8 out of 10, which Josh looks unhappy about and looks a little pissed. Aaron, would you like to give your score, and then we'll end with Josh's since he's our guest. Save the best for last.
Absolutely. I would rate this movie a clean 8 Michael Myers is out of 10.
All right. And Josh, what are you gonna give Halloween 3: Season of the Witch?
So I just want to preface this by saying I am actually impressed with Jake's rating.
Oh,
I thought
really?
it was gonna be lower. I think a 6.8 is actually a very good score.
Yeah.
So I was toying with a score between like a 0.3 gap.
Okay.
I was in the range. My highest was gonna be like a 7.1, and I kid you not, I was leaning towards a 6.8. But now that you said it, I can't do it. I just can't do it. So I am gonna go. I'm gonna just.
It would make more sense for your score to be higher than mine because it does sound like you enjoy the movie more.
So I'm gonna do the 7.1.
Yeah.
But
all right, I accept it.
yeah.
All right, so we'll do a little bit of quick calculator math. 6.8 plus 8 plus 7.1. 21.9 divided by 3. So this movie, between the three of us, gets an average score of 7.3 out of 10, which I'm very fine with. I don't think this is an amazing movie. I would hesitate to even call it great, but I definitely think it's a damn good time, and I would recommend it to any fan of the genre. Great kills, great music, great shots and cinematography, great direction. And although I hate Tom Atkins' character in the movie, great performance. Connell Cochran, played by Daniel Harley.
Yeah, great villain. Great villain.
Great villain. Like, and it sucks that we didn't get that anthology series for a lot of reasons. But like seeing how imagine in a world where we did get the anthology Halloween movies and every movie just had a really dope ass villain. That would be so. You could get
Could you imagine
That would be
the
pretty
scores?
nice.
Could you imagine the soundtracks?
Oh my God, yeah.
They would just. Oh my God.
Instead of just having to hear the same John Carpenter theme in 12 more movies.
Yeah.
Actually, and you've pointed it out to me, Josh. They do elevate the score in Halloween 2018, and they do some cool stuff to spruce it up a little bit in the newer Halloween movies.
Oh, that has some fantastic new tracks. The the Allison one. I forget what it's called.
Oh yeah. It does that. That's a good one. You know what doesn't have good music is the Rob Zombie Halloween movies.
I don't remember it.
Exactly.
Really don't know it.
Aaron, I'm excited for you to see those because I wanna get your thoughts. And unfortunately, there's not a Rob Zombie Halloween 3.
I'm curious.
So we can't bring you on for that, Josh. But
I know. Yeah, I'll have to miss out.
maybe we'll bring you back for Halloween H2O because I consider that the ending of the Halloween 1, 2, and H2O trilogy. And we'll bring you back for Halloween Ends. And we can discuss the epic tale of Corey Cunningham on this podcast and go over that. But yeah, guys, I guess we'll get into our plugs now. For this podcast, you can find us anywhere you get your podcast, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. A lot of people seem to like that we're on YouTube now. That's where we do most of our numbers. So check us out over on YouTube. Also, again, YouTube and Instagram. Which we do have an Instagram, also at Scared Speechless, as well as a Facebook page at Scared Speechless. But your best place if you want to reach us, if you want to leave a nice comment, send us a nice message, or give us a recommendation for a movie that you'd like to hear about talked on this podcast, either Instagram, DM us there, or leave a YouTube comment. And I'm kind of in the spirit of, at least until we start getting more comments, I'll probably give you guys a shout out. If you guys have been listening since the beginning of this episode, I gave a shout out to the guy who left our first YouTube comment, Armand. So thanks again, dude, for leaving the comment. We really appreciate you listening.
Really
he was
appreciate it, man.
saying he was going to listen to some of our older episodes, and again, if you guys are looking at going back through our catalog, not all the episodes are on YouTube, unfortunately. Most of them are on Spotify, but I highly recommend the Texas Chainsaw Massacre Old vs. New episode. I highly recommend our Trick or Treat episode. What's another really? Oh, Killer Clowns from Outer Space. Really. Yeah, that's
one of
an
my
excellent
favorites.
episode. It's just a really fun movie to discuss. You can find me personally on Instagram at Bose Jacob, spelled BOOSJACOB. Also check out my channel on YouTube, guys, at Former Film Student. I'm still trying to hit 2,000 subs by the end of the year. And if you like listening to us talk about horror films, I've done a lot of horror-related videos in the past month, and I have a couple more coming out soon. So, yeah. I think that's it for my plugs. Aaron, if you'd want to plug away.
Yeah, I just have like an Instagram. That's at Vixatic, VIXATIC. Don't worry about what it means. I post personal stuff on it from time to time. I haven't probably in like. Actually, I think it was only like a few months ago.
Are we gonna get an Aaron October photo dump? Hell yeah!
Hey man, probably. Cause I got.
Hell yeah! You got
I got
you
some
got to
fun
take a picture
stuff.
of you in your costume and. Hell yeah!
You already know, man.
Cool. Josh, would you like to plug anything or?
Oh, hey, you know what? I'm on Instagram. You can always find me at Joshy_124. Joshy spelled with an IE at the end.
Hell yeah. All right. This has been a really great time. It has been an absolute pleasure having you on the podcast, Josh.
I had a blast, guys. I appreciate you having me on. Love talking about this movie. So this was a lot of fun.
Yeah,
Thanks
and
for
like I think it went really well. I thought Josh was an excellent guest host, and like I said, I think it would be kind of fun to every time we do a part 3 of any franchise to bring Josh in. Not that we can't bring him in on other episodes, because I'm sure there's some movies that he would have fun talking about on here. And but I will say. Scream 7 most likely coming out sometime next year, and I was talking to Josh about this earlier today. The original plan was to have him on Scream 3, but because we weren't able to make episodes before Scream 6 came out, which was the original plan. But I kind of like it because I think Scream 7 is going to be the ending chapter in this new trilogy of Scream films, so it'll be cool to do all 6 Scream movies leading up to Scream 7 whenever that is planning on getting released, which, if the rumors are true and it is going to take place during Christmas, release it in December. That it's just like, why wouldn't you? But yeah, so maybe we'll bring Josh on for Scream 3 because that's probably the most fun to talk about out of all the Scream movies, just for a multitude of reasons. But yeah, guys, we appreciate everyone who listens to the podcast. It seems like we're getting a repeat 20 to 30 viewers or listeners per episode now, which is really great, really cool to see. Thank you guys so much for listening. We really appreciate it. Oh, I forgot next week's episode. So we are unfortunately leaving October, which this episode will be dropping October 30th. So we will not be having another episode before Halloween. So happy Halloween, guys. I hope you have some fun adventures, trick-or-treating, going to Halloween parties. Stay safe.
Stay safe.
And please,
all the
if you're a
rules.
parent and you listen to this podcast, I know it sounds silly, but check your kids' candy. Like, it's not something to fuck with. There's some sick fucks out there, and it's scary world we live in, but please stay safe. Be sure of the neighborhoods. If your kid's too young, don't let them go alone. Like, follow all the safety precautions. No time to fuck around. But in terms of next week's episode, guys, let me just pull up our schedule. But unfortunately, we are leaving October, but we are doing November, so I thought we'd have a couple of Thanksgiving November-ish movies to talk about. So we are doing the 1980s slasher, I think cult classic Blood Rage next week, which I have never seen. I've only heard about, and I don't think Aaron has seen it, so I'm very excited to add another slasher to my repertoire of slasher knowledge. So that'll be a lot of fun. So Blood Rage, guys. That's the one from the 1980s. So if you don't want to be spoiled for next week's episode, make sure you go and watch that before you listen to us talk about it. And yeah, guys, thanks again for listening. Throw us on whenever you get a chance. Your morning drives into work in the morning, your drives home from work, your morning walks to get coffee, when you're at the gym, getting your pump on, pumping that iron. Listen to us, talk about some horror films. It's always a good time, always a fun discussion. But yeah, guys, I think that's it for today. Anyone have anything else to say?
Throw us on when you're shopping for your cursed slash haunted, I don't know, fucking
witch
masks.
sci-fi yeah sci-fi witch masks.
Listen to us when you're Wizard 101.
Oh, Wizard 101. Now that is a fucking throwback. No?
Never
That's
played
fun.
it.
That's cool. Josh, any final thoughts?
Nah, you wrapped it up beautifully. I appreciate you guys letting me ramble.
Yeah, of course, man. Of course, yeah. We'll definitely have Josh back on. All right, guys, one last thanks to Josh for joining us. Thanks again to all the listeners. And we'll see you guys on the next episode. One last time. Yeah.
Clapping
Yeah.
noises,
Woo.
clapping noises.
Later, guys.
Yeet, yeet. All right, guys.
Bye,
Goodbye.
guys.
Take care. One last time. Blood Rage, next episode. Check it out. All right. Take care. Goodbye.